The military regimes in Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger have announced their immediate withdrawal from the West African bloc ECOWAS. The leaders of the three Sahel nations issued a statement saying it was a sovereign decision to leave the economic community of West African states without delay. The three countries have had a frosty relationship with ECOWAS since coup took place in Niger last July, Burkina Faso in 2022 and Mali in 2020. All three countries were suspended from ECOWAS, with Niger and Mali facing heavy sanctions. The withdrawal of the French military from the Sahel region along the Sahara Desert has heightened concerns over the conflict spreading southward to Gulf of Guinea states, Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Ivory Coast. The decision by the three countries, announced in a joint statement read out on Niger national television, is a blow to the bloc's regional integration effort in returning the country to civil rule.
Leurs Excellences le Capitaine Ibrahim Traoré,
Their Excellencies Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Colonel Assimi Goïta and Brigadier General Abdourahmane Tiani, heads of state of Burkina Faso, the Republic of Mali and the Republic of Niger respectively, will be taking full responsibility before history and responding to the expectations, concerns, and aspirations of their populations, have decided in full sovereignty to withdraw Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from the economic community of West African states without delay. Signed in Ouagadougou, Bamako, and Niamey on January 28, 2024. Thank you for your kind attention.
Bamako et à Niamey, le 28 janvier 2024. Merci de votre très aimable attention.
Right, Dr. Bati, I don't think a lot of people would say this wasn't, they didn't see this coming at all, bearing in mind the frosty relationship I'd mentioned between the three states in question and ECOWAS as a regional bloc. Your take on this story?
Okay, the 15-member economic community of West African states, popularly known as ECOWAS, was established in 1975 with the objective of promoting economic cooperation, integration among the various states, the 15 states making it up. And as pointed out, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger were founding members. Now, but as it happened, the Constitutive Act of the ECOWAS does not tolerate intervention in the political process in any of these member states through coups, military intervention, other than through the ballot box and the choice of the people. But as it happened in Mali, in 2010 and 2021, there were military interventions in Mali. And ECOWAS, the body of governments of Faso state, decided to impose sanctions on Mali and suspend Mali's membership. In 2022, it was the turn of Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso also had the military intervention, and it was also suspended, and sanctions were imposed on it after diplomacy failed. The same pattern occurred with Niger in July 2023, when there was coup in that country, and the military junta was asked to step aside and allow the democratically elected leader to be in office. So now, let's say cumulatively, 3 years down the line, if you date it from the coup in Mali, the three countries calling themselves the Alliance of the Sahel states have now decided to say, in fact, they are leaving ECOWAS without any delay. Now, what does the meaning of without delay, what does it mean in real terms? The ECOWAS protocol says that the process of disengagement will take at least 1 year. So what does it mean in real terms? Does it mean they are out? However, some realists will say, well, they've been out anyway, because ECOWAS itself, the leadership of ECOWAS, had not made any attempt to meet them halfway. As recently as Friday, Niger decided to invite representatives from the various ECOWAS countries to a meeting in Niamey, but only Togo showed up, forcing the army-appointed prime minister to accuse the remaining membership of ECOWAS as exhibiting bad faith. But now the question to ask is, what has led Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to this point? Now, one question that one can ask is that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, these are landlocked countries. They determine for access to trade routes and to the coasts on these other West African countries. So is it in their best interest to disengage from ECOWAS, given the trade advantages that their membership offers them? 2, the Sahel region is a hotbed of terrorism, banditry in the West African region. And the point has been made consistently that the way we can address the issue of terrorism, particularly within the Sahel region, and to avoid a contagion, is for West African leaders and states and the various security agencies to work together. So why would Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger think that they can go it alone? Perhaps because of their newfound romance with Russia. Only a week plus ago, Russia was signing some special agreements with Niger. And similarly, in Mali, you have the Wagner group there. You have the Russians who have taken over the place. But the stability of the Sahel region has very serious implications for stability within the sub-region itself. So they may have expelled France. They've chased France away, the former colonial power in those Sahelian states. And now they are looking towards Russia. And I think it's the confidence that they think they've been able to get from Russia that now forces them to say that ECOWAS is dancing to the tune of foreign powers. But even while saying that, they themselves say they've taken their decision on the basis of sovereignty. What sovereignty? One of the issues that came up when we had coups in all of those places is that people raised the question that, well, these coups were popular in those countries. In Niger, the people of Niger were jubilating. They were saying, what is ECOWAS issue in the matter? They were tired of the French. The French was the main problem. They should leave. In fact, at the time, they made a move against the French embassy in Niamey. But ECOWAS did not take a decision that if this is what the people want, what should be the position of ECOWAS? He just stayed by his own principles. And the question is, the residual question, is that we have these coups in these West African states, oftentimes from one state to the other, because African leaders continue to fail their people. And when you have these coups, the remaining leaders are afraid of copycat syndrome extending. After all, after the coup in Niger, the next place we had a coup was in Gabon. So the contagion are beginning to spread. So what is the way forward for the heads of government and states of the ECOWAS authority? Well, I think there is still room for diplomacy to the extent that the withdrawal within the established ECOWAS protocols will take a whole year. Maybe there is still way to mend fences. We can't afford to have 3 countries in the Sahel region, which is a major route for banditry, for terrorism, for insurgency, to be out of ECOWAS and to close the door for diplomatic engagements. Nigeria in particular will even be vulnerable because Niger is a neighboring country for us. So these are the considerations. Some people have said, it's President Tinubu as a chairman of ECOWAS that has failed and failed to manage the situation very well. No, I don't think it's something about personal responsibility. It's about ECOWAS leaders themselves insisting on the constitutive principles of ECOWAS, and now they are confronted with this outcome. But I do not think that the door has been shut yet to diplomacy.
All right. Well, like had been mentioned, ECOWAS was established by the Treaty of Lagos in 1975 as the Economic Community of West African States. And then it was reviewed in 1993 and was expanded to become a commission. Some people have argued, based on this development of the three countries deciding to exit ECOWAS, that perhaps it speaks to the strengths or the weakness of ECOWAS as a regional bloc. And this has come up a number of times in the last few months and years following the spate of coups in the West African bloc. Of course, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger Republic being at the forefront of that. Now, what these countries have said in their joint statement is that they've expressed the reasons why they have taken this decision to leave ECOWAS. But very importantly, they're saying that they will also want to set up their own regional bloc, mini regional bloc made up of three of the states, and the Sahel states, an alliance of Sahel states is what they've called it. And what they want to do is, in light of the insecurity and terrorism that this region faces, they want to tackle it head on. And that is why they've said they haven't gone on to hand over to a civilian rule or conduct elections. In their estimation, they'd like to tackle insecurity before facing the issue of governance. And there are many conversations around this. The first thing I would say is that perhaps that meeting with Niger that didn't happen on Friday could have potentially prevented this announcement coming out over the weekend. Perhaps it was the final veiled attempt to at least see if they could still have a place in Niger Republic. Unfortunately, it had said only Togo attended, and from the Nigerian end, they said that the plane that was meant to take them developed faults, and so they couldn't make it. So they snubbed, as it were, the Nigerians. And so this, of course, made it stronger or more appealing, perhaps, from that invitation to stay on their own as the alliance of Sahel states. Other things that have been looked into is this intervention, particularly in Niger Republic and Burkina Faso and Mali in recent times, but very importantly in the Nigerian situation and how well ECOWAS was able to manage the situation. We've talked about it a number of times that it seemed that the efforts made by ECOWAS didn't seem to achieve its results, and already it started to see perhaps the strengths or the lack of strength or power or influence that this regional bloc wielded. If its member states were willing to go against the other 12 members of the state to continue and refuse to hand over to a civilian rule, despite sanctions imposed by ECOWAS on this state. Now, one of the things that this gave rise to was then the conversation around ECOWAS's play or position or perhaps influence in strengthening and deepening democracy on the West African bloc, and that perhaps the lack of a deep policy or the lack of a strong policy to kick against multi-term, sit-tight dictators, undemocratic rules amongst their member states is one of the reasons why issues like this would come up. Last year, there were articles done around this in terms of the fact that ECOWAS, if it must be sustainable, must address issues around strengthening democracies amongst its member states. If you look at the members of ECOWAS, a number of them have long-term sit-tight leaders, and they're the ones who want to come into the case of these countries to say that, to kick against a coup and military rule. They didn't have a voice in that instance. And what had been called for was to strengthen ECOWAS as a regional bloc so that we would reduce the incidence of foreign intervention or foreign interference, as is the case with Mali, Niger, and perhaps Burkina Faso, and this relationship with Russia. Now, what's the international world's position on this? Of course, the US and perhaps Western allies wouldn't want to see a Russian foothold on the African bloc and so West African bloc. And so you would understand why in recent times there's been an increased interest from the United States and other Western countries like that to strengthen their alliances with countries in West Africa, including Nigeria. However, to what extent or how far will this go? Again, the question has been raised that can these three countries survive without being in ECOWAS? If you want to look at that on the flip side, what was the importance or how much power or influence or what benefit did they have being a member of ECOWAS? These are the questions that should be answered. Now, beyond that, according to the treaty signed by member nations of ECOWAS, it has to be 1 year. They have to give a written notice of 1 year, and within that 1 year, they must abide by the rules and principles of ECOWAS. despite the fact that the joint statement by these three nations say that they are withdrawing with immediate effect, they would then have to go back to the treaty that they signed and the agreements made as to the time of notice that must be given to ECOWAS. Now, this presents an opportunity. In this 1 year, based on the signed treaty, what can ECOWAS do to ensure that they do not lose the power and foothold? Because once these three nations, once there's that opportunity to leave, it also could have a ripple effect. Other member nations could well decide that it doesn't, there's nothing in it for them. Recall when the United Kingdom was going to pull out was going to exit from the European Union, from the EU. There was a huge hullabaloo around that because of the importance of having the United Kingdom as part of the EU, and also very importantly the signal it would give to other member nations if the United Kingdom would pull out. Ultimately they did, but perhaps there's some lessons that can be learned from that particular episode, because we have seen the impact on the British economy, on Britain as a whole, following Brexit. And perhaps they're thinking or rethinking that, was that a good decision to have made? I hope these member nations in the interim wouldn't hurt their countries further by making what could be said to be a knee-jerk reaction because of a dislike for how ECOWAS has handled what's happened in their countries in the recent past. And perhaps in terms of diplomatic conversation, ECOWAS can take it more seriously, take their position more seriously, and meet with these member nations to find a way to have a middle ground so that they remain with ECOWAS. Stronger together, I think it would have a huge impact on ECOWAS if this exit goes through, and these three countries fully exit from ECOWAS. But we have 1 year to remedy that, and I'm hoping that ECOWAS as a bloc would re-energize and also re-establish its impact, its influence on the regional bloc. Move on to our next story. Exportation of goods and services is a major driver of economic growth and prosperity, bringing numerous benefits to the economy of any country. Bearing this in mind, the board of the Nigerian aviation handling company, NACO, in 2021 initiated a venture to improve Nigerian exports. This culminated in the birthing of the NACO Export Processing and Packaging Center. Arise News correspondent Omobolanle Adesuyi has details in this report.
Proper processing and packaging facilities are crucial to the endeavor of boosting our exports as a nation. These were the words of the Group Managing Director, CEO, Nigerian Aviation Handling Company, NACO PLC, Mr. Indranil Gupta, at the inauguration of the NACO Export Processing and Packaging Center on Friday in Lagos. The GMD noted that this is the first of many in the nation.
As we have been talking, that non-oil exports is the way ahead for our country. And if non-oil exports have to be focused on, we need to look at the facilities that are available for processing and packaging. This is one such effort. The effort has to be larger. The effort has to be across all major stations of major cities of Nigeria, but it's a beginning. So it's a milestone, but an important milestone, quite a historic one, because it's been a journey of creating this, and we wish to replicate this soon at the other major centers of Nigeria.
The event, which was graced by stakeholders in Nigeria's aviation, customs, and other key sectors, brought to the fore issues around strengthening the nation's economic might by boosting its forex earnings. Chairman, NACO Board of Directors, Dr. Shende Oladapo Fadini, highlighted the opportunities the NACO Export Processing and Packaging Center presents, while calling for more support from the government.
It's huge because commercially it will boost our foreign earning. Instead of relying on oil and gas alone, we will provide jobs. And then the international airlines, which we provide services for, we also have the confidence because it's coming from us, because everything has been put in place to make sure it's the world standard. Government just have to make sure that they don't overcharge the exporters so that they can compete with other people from the world.
Speaking on the importance of the NACO Export Processing and Packaging Center, Mrs. Olubumi Oluwaseun Kuku, MDCE, Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, who represented the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, stated that it is a step in the right direction.
Nigeria stands at a very crucial juncture, especially with us trying to thrive and diversify our economy. I've continued to stand at the forefront of diversifying the economy as well as driving trade, especially into Africa, obviously with AFTA. And we continue to lose a significant amount of money from the lack of export from our dear country. This is an exciting moment. I really just want to say that the investments that you have made in this is a testament to others, to Nigerians, and to the larger investor community. And it means that we need to continue to encourage our local businesses.
This center is a timely intervention, particularly considering its cold storage facilities. We need to increase these facilities, and I'm so glad that NACO, part of their plan, they are setting up in all the other 5 international airports. It's part of their game-changing vision that they're doing. When we looked at it, I must tell this story, because we ran what we call the Export Expansion Grant Program. And the company that qualified for the most of that grant was NACO.
Congratulatory messages also poured in from well-wishers.
We of the Nigeria Customs Service are happy and so delighted to be part of this project.
I need to commend NACO for running faster than is a nimble organization, so they pick up these ideas and implement. And for those who are uncomfortable with the new ideas we are bringing, it is actually to change the whole avia cargo environment in Nigeria.
And then the icing on the cake, the inauguration of the center. Omobolanle Adeshui, Arise News.